Very good afternoon to all of you. Hope you all are fine in our own place. During the last previous session, differentiation, we have looked into the basic of sustainable development. And when I share some of the videos, we have also learned about how the concept of sustainability was evolved with the evolution of human civilization. And we know that why we need to find out a way to achieve sustainable development and sustainable development goals, right? On the other hand, in some session, we have learned about basic human needs, which are very dynamic. So when we talk about sustainability, issues of sustainability, basic human needs is the basic foundation to understand and to find out a better alternative looking into the problems we are facing, right? So today, what we are going to discuss in the backdrop of what we learned during the last few previous sessions and what we have given in our self-learning material and few of the videos I have shared with all of you is we know that sustainable science is one of the approaches of education for sustainability, and today I will look into how it has evolved or emerged as an important discipline across the globe. So when we talk about sustainable development, sustainability, what we're talking is about for a sustainable planet. When we talk about sustainable planet, it is about bringing back, or it is about maintaining the harmonious relation between the nature and society. So we can, say that if we are able to sustain our society, and automatically, and that talks about sustaining the whole entire system, right? And when you talk about sustainability of the planet or sustainability of society, it can be looked into three different approaches. Because when we talk about the sustainable development, we know that in one side, when we talk about the problems, environmental problems, social problems, they do not have any boundary. In the same way, when you are trying to understand those issues, those environmental issues, those social problems, looking into the present, the present world, we can say that in this present, this contemporary world, where we can connect to approach the world in a few seconds, in a few minutes, in 1 hour, then in that, whenever there is issues, you cannot say that there is a boundary. So there is no boundary. If you talk air pollution, if you talk water pollution, if you talk in the issues of terrorism, you talk of social other issues. So, the major objective, of sustainable development is achieving global sustainability. And when we are trying to understand those, objective for achieving sustainable development in a broader context, three important systems or three levels needs to be understood in very details, right? One is, if you look into top down, biosphere, that global systems needs to be understood, right? How global system is supporting us. Then next, when it comes into how we manage this global system, it is a society. So we have to look into from the perspective of a social system. Then when we are again look into the social system, whatever happening, whatever relation, if you look into different scale, it is the human system or human or individual level, right? These three levels needs to be understand how these three levels are interrelated to each other. So let us have a look into those three levels from the lens of sustainability when we're trying to understand the genesis of this discipline of sustainability science. So when we talk about global system, I told you most of us know that it is our biosphere, right? That contains, geosphere, that contains atmosphere, that contains hydrosphere, right? That gives us our life, in the form of natural resources, in the form of energy and so on. But unfortunately, what happened to make ourselves more, the human, the human one thing, that limitation, we can say limitation of negative, characteristic of human is we never we do not never have that kind of behavior that okay, we can have this much, uh, uh, means what I can say, that is that we are trying to, we're expecting more whatever we are getting, right? So the point where what I'm going to say is the geosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere that gives us lives. So in the process of human civilization, and what we did, we destroy all this system and creating another system of pollution, right? So that's why that was evidence that was evidence in the 1980s when we discovered the ozone hole, right? Then now we are in the era of climate change. This is certain, evidence in front of us that that was because of the overexploitation of this global system by the human civilization. Then coming to the social system, to run all this system, we created our own system, political system, economic system, industrial system, are structured by us to fulfill ourselves. In that process, what we did number of development activities. When we created a number of development activities, as we know, the negative impact is, as I told you, we never have the limitation. We are asking more and more from the nature, right? So in that way, what happened? Destruction is happening. That is now environmental cause. On the other hand, when we develop in such a way that because of our advancements of knowledge, we develop industrial society, we develop affluent society that have another impact to the our social system, then social disparity is happening, right? There are imbalances there. Then among our society, we have created another phenomenon of rich poor, developing. So this system imbalances what we have. We are supposed to balance this nature society interaction. And again, this system is, if you look into at the lower level than human system. No, when you talk about the human system, it is a total factors affecting the survival of individual human beings. When you talk about individual human beings, it is closely related to your society, social system, and closely related to the environmental system. So this system, you can look those systems from human system to social system to global system. They are interrelated to that system. So when we're talking about the human system, each and every individual, we develop your own way of lifestyles and values. And we want to have a healthy, safely, in a secure way. But unfortunately, what we mentioned about, because of the destruction of the global system in our human civilization, during the growth of our civilization, and then because of our social system, where we use a development as a mechanism to improve our economic development, that gives a negative social impact, like inequality happened here, then disparity among different groups of society, then unemployment, and so on. So that has directly affect to the entire system. So the point is that when we have such kind of issues in one side and other side, all these issues are related to each other. So how to bring back or how to balance all these three systems, that is the question in front of us, right? So here, from here, you will see when you talk about global sustainability, you know, human system, when if you look from the bottom up point of bottom up approach, you will find first, as an individual, we need a very secure life, then healthy, with that good well-being, and you know, lifestyles, values, norms, everything, right? So these are directly connected to your social system, what we produce, our political system, economic system, industry, technology. In that way, you know, that has direct impact the global system. So this is how it is interrelated. Here you will find out that because of the unequal growth across the world, then there is disparity, disparity among different nations, among different societies, that created, you know, social issues of poverty, then that created a number of, on the other end, we are facing a number of natural disasters. In the same time, when we talk about human health and well-being, the number of diseases are there. So that is, we need to take care about how it was, what are the major causes of all these things, is because of the mass production and the mass consumption into way of destructive way of mass production consumption that have direct impact into each and every system. This is how we have to understand the interlinkages between global system, social system, and human system from the lens of sustainability, right? So that's why we need sustainable design as a tool to achieve or to study those relationships for achieving global sustainability. And if you look into the basic definition of sustainability design, is the study of the relation between nature and society, right? So different authors, they have given different different definition depending on the situation, and so, like, you know, Komiyama and Takuchi, they propose that sustainability science and academic field that points the way of understanding diverse issues associated with sustainability in a holistic manner, and to offering vision of the development of a sustainable society and methods for achieving it, right? So from these particular definition, you'll be able to understand how you have to look into the global sustainability in a holistic way. Again, another academics like Yerim and Mashuru in 2011, they defined this as an academic field that analyzes the processes of production, diffusion, and utilization of various types of knowledge with long-term consequences of society, for society, right? So this reflects that whatever happening is environmental problem, is global problem in front of us, is because of, as I told you, that because of the way we are the way of production, imbalanced production, destruction, and diffusion and utilization of resources, right? Then we know that it's you must have looked into one of the video which I share, how the terms of this sustainability was emerged. In fact, the term sustainability, when you look into academic context, this word sustainable or sustainability is very common in the field of ecology, in the forestry, in the fisheries. But it is not limited there. And different authors, like economists like Herman Daly, they use the word sustainable society. Before that, also a number of authors they use, and when they discuss about social sustainability in some books. So, and if you look into contemporary, basically means one of the important era is during 1970s era. In that time, the world was discussing about environment problem. The world was discussing about sustainable development. At that time, that Delhi also reflected about the importance of this importance of the issues of sustainability, in his book, The Sustainable Society. Later on, we know that the basic concept was born in, technically and academically started to use in the World Commission Environment Development Report, Our Common Future. From that onwards, we have standardized the definition of sustainable development. Right. This is how the concept of sustainability was bringing in a holistic way, looking into the issues and the way we need to achieve the sustainable development, right? So then again, if you look into the broad three important milestones, how it was happened in context of the sustainability science, we have talked about it, World Commission of Environment Development, right? That report on sustainable development, right? Then later on, when we have Rio Conference in 1992, our common effort was achieving sustainable development. How to achieve it? We have the report. We know that there are certain issues which needs to be, resolved at the earliest by the human, right? At global, especially in global context, right? So number of global politics was global politics on sustainable development. We have seen number of global conventions and conferences was there. Among that, one of the important milestone is after 1972, we have 1992 Rio Conference. In that, one of the output of the conference is Agenda 21 program. And that Agenda 21 program, it specifically talks about achieving sustainable development. Even it talks about local Agenda 21 also. And is the responsibility of, giving that achieving sustainable development and promoting and that concept of sustainability and education for sustainable development was given to UNESCO, right? And later on, after that, number of that convention among these after 1992, I will not mention here. We are coming after a few minutes, and followed by we have Rio Plus 10, that is in Johannesburg in 2002, that emphasized about the importance of education in facilitating the action and in fact, in that Johannesburg summit, UN proposed a decade for education for sustainable development, right? So this is how the growth of education for sustainable development started, and during the 1990s onward, the International Council for Science take an initiative on studying the relation between science, technology, and sustainable development. From that time onward, the basis or road for sustainability science was started in some university, right? Then when we look into the how, we talk about global system, and we talk about the social system, we talk about the human system. So to survive ourselves, and we can look those development, how we are destructing it when we realize that we destruct the environment. On the other hand, we have to survive. So to survive ourselves, and we can look some of the approaches we follow with the advancement of our knowledge. First, what we did. Now, what we did, we fight with the nature. Then after that, what we did, we develop in our own mechanism. We make our industry, right? then that created issues. So this growth of knowledge, when looking for a survival, that can look into 3 stages. One is, survival science. When you talk about survival sciences, the science like, engineering, and the science we're talking about that tsunami, we are talking about this climatology, we are talking about earth science. This gives a way to us about how to survive with all these natural disasters, right? Then we have development science. Yeah, in development science, what we did, we developed a number of technology, right? How to extract the resources, right? Then how to utilize the resource in a very efficient way. And in that development science, we can look into a different form of science like mechanical engineering, we can look at that biotechnology and so on. So after that, what we found is that all those survival science, which we are trying to adapt with a natural calamity, we are trying to cope up with those calamities, and in the process, we develop a number of technology to survive ourselves. Then we know that because of that, we have environmental issues. That's why today we are talking about the issues of sustainability. And last stage of this is we need to have a science advancement knowledge specialized area that sustain our system. In this way, we can look that sustainability science is the third stage is when we look into that evolution of science, looking into the target of scientific activities, what was happening during our broader human civilization, right? So these are some of the milestones in the growth of sustainability science. If we look in this picture, we'll see in 1972, we have the limit to growth report by Club from. Before that, also we have Raquel Carson, that publication, and Paul Eric's that IPET formula, and moreover, one of the important global effort because of all those publications is Stockholm Conference on that human environment. Then later on 1980s, during 1970 to 1980s, a number of global convention and global efforts then that we discuss in the global tables. Among that, the Tbilisi conferences and the creation of United Nations Environment Program and so on. And in 1984, we have World Commission on Environment Development was constituted, and in 1987, its report was published. In between that, also number of issues, number of development was there. I will not mention here. There are a number at different regional level also. Number of scientific studies on related to climate change was also happened. Then 1987, we have global IGBP, International Geosphere Biosphere Program, followed by 1991 Diversitas, and in 1992 we have Rio Conference, 1996 International that Human Dimension Program on Global Environment was there. This is certain, milestone which we achieve through those conventions and through those different, international efforts. Now we are able to achieve this. Recently, we have in 2020. We have global efforts on establishing this sustainability science and as a academic discipline across the world. This is a quick summary of that how growth of sustainable science is happening since 1970s onward. Why sustainability science education is important? You know, as I told you when we discuss about the three systems, because of the rapid advancement in science technology and because of the expansion of regional economies into a worldwide network, means because of this openness of global economy, you know. Now, what's happened during the last few decades? Now, we have seen that as compared to whatever the perception we have, whatever in our mind in the last 2-3 decades, we've seen the world as a family. You can reach to anywhere, any part of the country in a very short duration. You know, you can get information very easily in a few seconds because of the advancement of information communication technology. In the same time, if you look into some part of the world, even poverty is still exists here, starvation is still there. Even if you look into somewhat better condition in developing countries, also this phenomenon of the problem of poverty and starvation is still exists. Though in some part of the world we are highly advanced, as I told you, we can get everything in 2 seconds. This is a disparity. This is the imbalances, right? And at the same time, if you look into developed country also, you know, we feel that the developed country do not have any issues. Unemployment problem is there. And if you look into this global pandemic, the issues of unemployment exist across the world. When there is any cyclical recession in any part of the country, what happened when in European country during the last 1 decade? So that has direct impact into the social system, that has direct impact to the human system, right? That is why we need to have an integrated approach of studying those issues in a holistic way. That is why we need to have that systematic science, right? So all these issues, how can you look all these issues that can be looked? If you look into characteristic of all these issues, it can be looked into 2 common characteristics. One is fallacy of composition. The another is fragmentation of the holistic working of organic life. You know, in fallacy of composition, now what do we do to fulfill our existence, and what we do? And at our individual level, is we know that we never keep our limitation. And at individual level, due to the way we are due to our lifestyle we follow in some part of the world, is we know that in another part of the world, some people is still in the poverty, in that social poverty line. In other part of the world, their lifestyle, you know, if you look into their lifestyle, consumptive, affluent lifestyle. So when you look those lifestyle, right? So you may feel that it is at individual, in a nation level, or in an individual level. When you accumulated those level aggregated, then that have a larger impact, that badly impact to the carrying capacity of the earth. That's why we are talking today. Nowadays, we're talking about whatever degradation happening today is because of the lifestyle, consumptive lifestyle. What this Western country, they are following from the last 100 years, right? This is called fallacy of composition, right? Then another is fragmentation of another is fragmentation of the holistic working of organic life. You know, in the process of development, we know that, you know, if you look into the what we are trying to do during the process of development, especially in industrial revolution. Now, one important is, we make specialized area, right? Say an example, in engineering we have different level of classes of that division of labor is happening, irrespective of any of the field. That narrowed specialization in human activities. So when you narrow the specialization of human activities and without understanding the wholesomeness of the social structure, importance of that, then if you narrow it and when we have division of labor, it automatically distract ourselves from some among ourselves, we can say, from that division of labor to another division. Because why we are making so much narrowed specialization? Because our pursuit is never end, and we need higher production. That's why we're talking about, even if you look today in electrician, also in every field, you will see highly specialized area that makes our life has become isolated from one person to another. So this is how it is directly direct impact to the human individual. So in that way, now when we're talking about sustainable development, then it cannot be achieved until unless if we are not understanding these issues which we define in two important characteristics, that fallacy of composition and the fragmentation of the holistic working of organic life. Right. The recent development is, sustainability science. When you look into we have 1992, then plus Rio plus 10 Stockholm, that Rio plus 10 Johannesburg, then Rio plus 20, then MDGs, SDGs, and so on. When it comes into SDGs, and different authors, different academic, different experts of the opinion that the tenets of sustainability science should be used, or they also widely acknowledge that is a tool for attaining global sustainability. Because whenever we are looking for issues of sustainability, you cannot look in isolation. You cannot look sector-wise, right? That's why we need certain such kind of discipline which have to understand all those issues in a holistic way. And that is the reason, if you look in any of the developmental agendas, every national and international organization will find out. You look in any of the approaches which different organizations following to achieve sustainable development, then this core philosophy of sustainable science is dear. If you look into Millennium Development Goals, also in Sustainable Development Goals, so specifically in MDGs also there, SDGs also here. If you look into that, how to bring or aware about sustainable development, education is one of the key components. When you talk about education, no, we talk about quality education, right? So when you talk about sustainable development goals that have 17 goals, in that also you cannot look, as we also discussed in last one of the classes, then when you talk about poverty, you cannot see the issues of poverty from that of your well-being, happiness, well-being and happiness, from that of giving job opportunity to others, from that of your ecosystem health. So you have to look those issues from that holistic lenses. And what is the international trends in sustainability science education? And when you look into sustainability, one is we know that how sustainability can be looked into global context, in a broader context. And when you talk about fallacy of composition, when you talk about the issues, different issues, when we talk about especially in this fermentation holistic knowledge, right? And that the issues are different from one place to another, right? So when you talk about sustainability issues, the issues in India and the issues in other countries are different. So when we develop sustainable science education is an approach to achieve sustainable development, then the priorities are different from one country to another country. Let us take an example. In most of the European countries, they are highly developed. Their issues are, and they can look into policies issues. In context of India, it is not about only policy. It is about our involvement also. So that's why when we develop about the sustainable science is or we can say sustainable science education, it has to look from region to region. Right? This is some of the university that have different way of and approach of inducting or introducing sustainable science is a separate academic discipline in their university. Like, under Professor Bill Clark at John F. Kennedy School of Government and at Harvard University, their way is on policy context, right? In the same way, University of Tokyo in Japan and the United Nations University, there is, it talks about how ecosystem play an important role, and they really look into ecosystem approach. In that way, different universities have their own way of approach. In the same way, in the UN Decade of Education for Sustainable Development, Indira Gandhi National Open University in India also develops the sustainability science is one of the discipline in IGNOU, under that guidance of Professor Swaminathan in the 95 Indian Science Congress that was organized at Visakhapatnam in the year 2008. Special plenary session of sustainability science was also taken place in the session, right? Then looking into, as I told you, and we know that issues of sustainability is different from one region to other region. We know that sustainability science, major objective of sustainability science in any of the literature or the basic, logic or of this sustainable science education is, achieving sustainable development. When we talk about achieving sustainable development, it is not about 5 years or 10 years of that activity. It is a long-term vision. So in that, the major objective of this sustainable science is, as we know, to nurture a generation of leaders who are capable of appreciating the significance of changes in global social and human system, right? And who tread the pathways of sustainability in implementing policies on the basis of this understanding, right? Then when we talk about the sustainable science education in India, 3 important questions in front of us is, one is whom to educate, what to educate. When we know whom to educate and what to educate, then what is the approach, how to achieve that education, means approach. So when we talk whom to educate, what I feel is we can look in India if you look into society, we can look into three stakeholders. One is, general public. Now, they are the direct beneficiaries. General public includes everybody, each and every situation. Then, second group is scientists or academic. Scientists and academic, they study the issues and they try to find out alternative or better option. Then stakeholder three is policymakers or planners who have the authority to implement it. This is what I feel going to educate. This is the common structure you have seen in India. When general public is, they are well aware, and if the policy maker is not well aware, what we have to do? Can't do anything. So all stakeholders, three stakeholders needs to be educated at the same time, then only we will be able to implement effectively, right? Then second question, what to educate? As I told you, from one region to another region, we have different issues. What are the contemporary issues of India? Poverty still exists, pollution, and the most important is, we have problem of livelihood opportunity. So we need to improve that in how to do that. This needs to be educated. The way this kind of issues needs to be educated. Then another important is, our traditional rituals. If you look into our traditional rituals, in our old scripture, our traditional custom, we talk about sustainability, and the issues of sustainability when we discuss academically, it seems to us that this concept comes from Western world. In fact, if you look into our traditional rituals, it is not so. Right? That's why we need to revisit, relearn our time wisdom. These two important components needs to be introduced in our education system. Right? I will not go into this. Then, and another issue what I want to focus here is that we know that environment education is successfully implemented in India beginning from 1980s as an environmental awareness program. Is it enough? I don't think so. It is not enough. So sustainability education has to be introduced at different levels. The way I have mentioned here, we can look into the three important stakeholders. Depending on the target group, we can introduce or we can find out different mechanisms to introduce such kind of issues. Then the question comes, how to educate all those three major stakeholders? When you talk about that issues of sustainability, the way of education to the general public will be different, and to already educated, like even if you look into the scientist academic also, we are specialized in our own domain because of our highly specialized. That's why we are talking about that division of labor. Because of your highly specialized, you are a nanotechnology expert. Because of your highly specialized characteristic, you sometimes we forget our basic understanding of this holistic characteristic of environment, holistic characteristic of issues, environmental issues, social issues, sustainability issues that needs to be reoriented from time to time. In the same time, for policymakers and planners also, same what is happening with academic scientists, it's also happening. So that can look, for example, for academic and scientists, we have refresher course, different refreshers course, and that can be, I mean, introduced in that way. In the same way, our decision maker, policy maker, planners, they also can be given regular training. And another is when we talk about, that education at different level in formal education, we can integrate sustainability as a major component in existing higher education curriculum, right? So the point is that, what I want to say, another point is that when we talk about environmental education in India, if you look into what was happened during the last 2 decades, after effectively implementation of environmental education, it seems to us is that our way of approach was that literacy program, environmental literacy program. But it's not big. Here, especially in this case of sustainability education, it should not be a kind of literacy program. It should be learning by doing, right? Co-learning, this principle has to follow. So looking into that, we can look into 3 ways, that is conventional education system, open distance learning, as you know the difference. In conventional education system, we can introduce 2 ways, infusion and diffusion way of education. Either we can introduce a separate discipline, a sustainable design. Other is, the diffuse this into different. I mean, for example, in engineering also, they like the way that's I told you, the way in India we are taking like this literacy, environmental literacy education. This should not be happening this way in sustainable science education. An open distance learning system, the way we are providing, where we can we are giving opportunity to all sections of the society. And then other is especially the ICT is effectively implementing during the last 1 year due to this pandemic. These are the certain tools we can use to achieve sustainable development education, right? So in that way, Indira Gandhi National Open University, we have introduced a number of programs, and during UN decade of education for sustainable development. These are some of the program, right? And the PG dishes is one of the output of our initiative in this direction of sustainability education in India, right? The conclusion is that when you are talking about achieving sustainable development goals by 2030, education, we know that education play an important role in that. Also, higher education needs to play a significant role. If you look into how vertically all those goals are interrelated, that in that the role of higher education cannot be ever used. So we need to establish sustainable science is a standalone discipline with an objective, because our objective is to produce a group of leaders. When you are talking about producing a group of leaders, then you need to train that group of leaders who understand the issues of sustainability from a holistic perspective. Because if you are trained in that way, and if you train in a diffusion mode, there you will have different impact. That's why when you talk about diffusion mode, what will happen, it will come diluted the system, and will come like what happened in environmental education. If we assume that environmental education in India is successful, why we are having a lot of issues in India? Still, why we are fashion. We have a lot of environmental problems. So that's all for today. These are some of the references. Thank you very much. So